All right, so here we are again with Alice, and she's walking around in her little black and white grayscale Game Boy land. And I have not worked on her very much lately because I've been very busy with other things. This is, my hobby that I do when I've got nothing else going on. But I wanted to show you what progress I've made in dealing with my landscape. So before she was just on flat ground, but now you can see that she can walk here up to the edge of a cliff. She can't walk off the cliff. She doesn't really jump in this game or anything. And I think it's cool that I have a little 3D effect here with the shadow on the side of the cliff there. It turns out that I found with some experimentation that shadow is totally 100% important to getting any kind of effect on that, because otherwise it just looks like this is like a patch of dirt with a weird curve in it. So I put a shadow there, and then I have my river here, which has a waterfall, of course. That also helps add to the, effect that that is down and not just, like we're moving up and down on the y-axis instead of just across on the z and the x-axis. But I've also got my river banks that kind of go around my river and hem it in. It gives it sort of again, it gives it a little more of that 3D effect. It sort of looks like we're going down into the river, down the riverbank, and then up the other side where it's light and dark. And of course, the light and dark effects were critical to making that happen. And so, yeah, I want to show you a little bit more about how I made my river after we get done checking it out here. So yeah, let's look at some code and I'll show you what I worked on. So the code for my river is actually a little complex. This is a complex object. We are building our river with multiple different tiles, obviously, because we have actually 9 different tiles that make our banks and our water. And then, of course, we have the animation of the moving water over that. And then we also have the waterfall. So what we have here is that when we create a river, I'm telling it a position and a size for the river, but then I'm also telling it a certain type. So the type, for example, is going to be, in some cases, it's going to be like a waterfall, right? And then it's going to use a certain sprite or a certain collection of sprites, or, it's going to be just regular old water. And when we've got the regular water, we're actually using a multi-dimensional while loop here to loop through different x and y values so that it can automatically select where we are on this x and y grid to decide whether or not we need like the corner top piece of the bank, or whether or not we need the top piece of the bank or the bottom corner, etc. So it sort of picks out the color or the corners and the edges and automatically assigns all those so that I don't have to sit and define all of that by hand. And then I did have to do a couple of things where I connect the different pieces of river together so that it all looks smooth and flowing. But one problem that I had with this was getting this ripple effect to work out. And the problem is that I had multiple different tiles that extended over the course of my map, and they all need to ripple in sync. Well, that's a problem because when we're actually rendering this in the game, we're only showing tiles that are within a certain distance away from Alice. If we show all of the tiles that are really far away and we're handling all the animations for those, then it's going to really slow our game down. So we only show the tiles that are actually, really close to her, right next to her, or maybe just a little bit off the edge of the screen so that they're already loaded. So since these tiles for the river were loading at different times, they were actually running out of sync from each other in their animation. So basically, I just created a little function here that my things, that is my tiles that I'm drawing on the screen, will sync their sprites, meaning they will synchronize what sprite they're using in their animation. And it's pretty easy. We just feed it a number, and then each thing has a little sync sprite number. And if that number is not set to 0, then we will just run this little doodad here, this little piece of formula. We select which sprite we are going to use based on our game's internal ticker or counter, and then we get the modulus of the sync sprite number. So we take our ticker and we divide it by the number of the sync sprites. We have 3 different sprites for animating our water, so we divide it by 3, and then whatever the remainder is, that tells us which sprite on the list we should be looking at. And that way, all of my water is using the same sprite at the same time, and so they are all synchronized. So I hope that you guys thought that this was cool. Give me some feedback, and hopefully I'll have more time to work on this and we'll make some more progress on it. I'll see you next time. Bye.